Are you someone who knows what needs to get done, but you just can't start? Do you sit down to work and somehow end up doing absolutely everything else? Are you exhausted by your own delays and tired of being hard on yourself about it? This video will give you the mojo you need. Strategies plus science.
Welcome back. This is Dr. Grandma B, Dr. Bachmeyer's avatar. Dr. Bachmeyer is working on her next video and a book that I believe you are going to like as I present this life-changing information. Let's go for it because you got this. Today we are talking about something that I know you have experienced. Something that affects almost every person on the planet at some point in their lives, and for many of us on a daily basis. We are talking about procrastination. Now, before you roll your eyes and think, oh great, another lecture about just do the thing, I promise you this is not that. Because what research has discovered about why we procrastinate is genuinely surprising. It is not about laziness. It is not about poor time management. It is not even really about the task. Procrastination at its core is about emotion. It is about how our brains try to protect us from uncomfortable feelings. And once you understand that, everything changes. By the end of this video, you are going to understand what is really happening when you delay. You will hear what the latest peer-reviewed research has to say about it, and you will walk away with 5 concrete strategies that are backed by science, not just willpower. So let us get into it. Let us start with the definition, because how we define something shapes how we understand it. Procrastination is defined in psychological research as the voluntary delay of an intended course of action, despite knowing that the delay will likely make things worse. That phrase, despite knowing, is crucial because procrastination is not confusion. It is not forgetting. It is not being unable. It is choosing in the moment to do something else instead. Now that sounds harsh when I say it that way, but here is what is important. That choice is almost never a conscious, deliberate one. It is almost always driven by something much deeper, an emotional signal in your brain that says, this task does not feel safe right now. Let us do something else. Researchers have found that procrastination affects between 15 and 20% of adults chronically, meaning it regularly interferes with their work, their health, and their quality of life. And among students, the numbers are even higher, with some studies estimating that over 80% of college students procrastinate in ways that impact their academic performance. So if you have ever thought, what is wrong with me? The answer is nothing. This is one of the most common human struggles there is. And the question is not whether you procrastinate. The question is, what is driving it and what can you do about it? Here is the biggest misconception about procrastination. Most people, and most productivity advice, treats procrastination as a time management problem. Use a better calendar, set more alarms, just be more disciplined. But that is not what the research shows. Psychologists Timothy Pitchell and Fuchsia Sirois, 2 of the most respected names in procrastination science, proposed what is called the emotion-focused model of procrastination. And their model says this: procrastination is a mood repair strategy. It is what your brain does when a task triggers an unpleasant emotion. That emotion might be anxiety, self-doubt, boredom, frustration, fear of failure, or even fear of success. And rather than feel that emotion, your brain steers you towards something that feels better right now. You scroll, you snack, you reorganize, you do literally anything else. The relief is real for about 5 minutes. Then the task is still there, and now there is guilt stacked on top of it, and the task feels even heavier. So the next time you think about it, the avoidance is even stronger. This is the procrastination cycle. It is not a willpower problem. It is an emotional feedback loop. And the good news about emotional feedback loops is that they can be interrupted. That is exactly what we are going to learn how to do. Let me take you inside your brain for a moment. You have two major players in the procrastination story. Player one is the limbic system, your emotional brain, responsible for survival, pleasure, and most importantly, avoiding pain. It is fast, reactive, and it lives entirely in the present moment. So when a task feels threatening, even emotionally threatening, the limbic system sounds the alarm. Player two is the prefrontal cortex, your thinking brain, responsible for planning, reasoning, impulse control, and long-term decision-making. It knows the deadline. It knows the consequences. It genuinely wants to do the task. But under emotional stress, the limbic system consistently outcompetes the prefrontal cortex. Your emotional brain wins the argument every time. There is also something called self-efficacy at play here. Self-efficacy is your belief in your own ability to succeed at a task. Research from 2025 found that when self-efficacy is low, procrastination reliably goes up. And when you believe you are going to fail or disappoint, starting the task feels dangerous. Procrastination becomes a form of self-protection. And then there is perfectionism. Perfectionists are often the biggest procrastinators of all, not because they do not care, but because they care so much that the gap between their high standard and the risk of falling short becomes paralyzing. It is not, I do not care about this. It is, I care so much that I cannot begin. Understanding these three things, the emotional brain, low self-belief, and perfectionism, helps us see that procrastination is not a moral failure. It is a human brain doing exactly what it was designed to do, and the challenge is learning to work with it. I want you to meet Jeff. Jeff is a 34-year-old graphic designer who works from home. He is talented, he cares deeply about his work, and he has a big client project due at the end of the month. Every morning, Jeff sits down at his laptop with real intention. Today is the day. Today he will open that file and get moving. Instead, he spends 2 hours on email. Then he reorganizes his entire design folder. Then he makes a third cup of coffee. Then he watches 2 YouTube videos about productivity. By the time he finally opens the actual project file, it is 2 in the afternoon, and he feels so behind that he closes it again almost immediately. He goes to bed that night feeling exhausted, guilty, and quietly terrified about the deadline. The turning point for Jeff came when he started asking himself a different question. Instead of, why am I so lazy? He started asking, what am I feeling right before I avoid this? And what he found surprised him. Every time he sat down to open that project, he felt a wave of inadequacy, a quiet fear that his work would not be good enough, that the client would be disappointed, that his talent was not real. He was not avoiding the work. He was avoiding the feeling of potential failure. When Jeff named that out loud, wrote it in his journal, something shifted. The fear did not disappear, but it lost a little of its power, and he started using a simple tool you are going to learn today. He gave himself 2 minutes. Just open the file, put one element on the canvas. Just 2 minutes. We will hear what happened to Jeff when we get to our strategies. All right, let us get practical. These strategies are evidence-based. That means they come from real research, not just good ideas. And they are designed to work with your brain, not against it. Strategy 1. Name the emotion before you name the task. Remember what we said earlier. Procrastination is driven by emotional avoidance, and the first step to interrupting that cycle is making the unconscious conscious. Research on something called affect labeling shows that naming an emotion, actually saying or writing it out, reduces its intensity in the brain. When you name what you are feeling, you engage the thinking brain and you slow down the automatic avoidance response. Here is how you do it. Before you sit down to work on something you have been avoiding, take 60 seconds and write the answer to this question. What am I actually feeling about this task? Be specific, not just stressed, but I am scared I will do this wrong, or I feel overwhelmed because I do not know where to start, or I am afraid this is not going to be good enough. Naming it moves you from automatic to intentional, and that shift matters enormously. Strategy 2, the 2-minute start rule. Research shows that the hardest part of any task is getting started, the intention-action gap. The space between deciding to do something and actually beginning is where procrastination lives. And once you start, momentum carries you forward. So here is the rule. Commit to just 2 minutes. Set a timer, open the document, write 1 sentence, reply to the first paragraph, place 1 element on the canvas like Jeff did. After 2 minutes, you are allowed to stop. And most people find they keep going. But even on the days you stop after 2 minutes, you have broken the avoidance pattern for that day, and that matters. Strategy 3 is the one that might surprise you the most. Self-forgiveness after procrastinating. I know what some of you might be thinking. That sounds like letting myself off the hook. But I want you to listen carefully because the research on this is very clear. A study by Wohl, Pickle, and Bennett looked at students who procrastinated before their first exam. They divided students into 2 groups. One group practiced self-forgiveness for procrastinating. The other group did not. When the second exam came around, the students who had forgiven themselves procrastinated significantly less. The self-criticism group procrastinated more. The kindness was more effective than the criticism. Here is why. Self-criticism after procrastinating increases negative emotion, and negative emotion is what drives the next avoidance. The guilt, shame, and self-blame become the very fuel that powers the next episode of procrastination. But when you forgive yourself, you clear that emotional debris and give yourself a fresh start. Here is how to apply it. After a procrastination episode, say this to yourself or write it down. I delayed that task today. That is something many people do. I am not lazy. I was overwhelmed. I can try again tomorrow. That is not an excuse. That is evidence-based self-management. Strategy 4. Break tasks into values-aligned microsteps. Large, vague tasks are among the strongest triggers for procrastination. Work on the project is almost impossible to start, but open the document and write the title, that you can do. Here is the 2-part technique. Part 1. Break the task into the smallest possible concrete steps. Not write the report. Instead, open the document, write the heading, write 3 bullet points. Each step should take no more than 5 minutes. Part 2. Write 1 sentence connecting this task to something you care about. Maybe it is providing for your family. Maybe it is doing work you are proud of. Maybe it is showing up for yourself. That values connection transforms the task from an obligation into a personal act, and personal acts are much easier to begin. Strategy 5. Redesign your environment to reduce friction. This one comes straight from the research on academic environments. A landmark study found that environments with high freedom, few deadlines, and easy access to distractions are, in the researchers' words, procrastination friendly. They make avoidance the path of least resistance. So the strategy is simple. Make the path to starting easier than the path to avoiding. Identify your 3 biggest distractions. For most people, the phone is number 1. Put it in another room before you begin. Close social media tabs. Use a browser blocker if you need to. And change your physical location if possible. And here is a bonus that the research backs up. Work near another person. You do not have to talk to them. Just being near someone else creates social accountability, and social accountability significantly reduces procrastination. This is why coffee shops and libraries work for so many people. The presence of others quietly holds us accountable. Researchers Mahi, Munakata, and Miyake published a major review in Nature Reviews Psychology in 2024, bringing together procrastination research from both adults and children, and finding consistent evidence that procrastination is associated with real, measurable negative outcomes, including lower academic achievement, worse mental health, and reduced quality of life. But they also found consistent evidence that it is changeable. Psychologist Fuchsia Sirawa has shown repeatedly that stressful contexts deplete our coping resources, making procrastination more likely when life is already hard, which means procrastination is not a stable personality flaw. It goes up and down with context, and that means we have more control over it than we think. And research from 2025 confirmed that low self-efficacy, low belief in our own ability, is a direct predictor of procrastination, which means that building belief in yourself through small wins, encouragement, and realistic expectations is genuinely therapeutic. Every small step you take is data that tells your brain you can do this, and that data builds. So to bring it all together, 5 strategies, all grounded in that research. Name the emotion. Use the 2-minute rule. Practice self-forgiveness. Break tasks into values-aligned micro-steps, and redesign your environment. These are not hacks or shortcuts. They are evidence-based tools built to work with your brain, not against it. Let me tell you what happened to Jeff over 3 weeks of applying these strategies. Naming his emotions before he started, using the 2-minute rule, forgiving himself on the hard days, breaking tasks into tiny concrete steps, and putting his phone in the kitchen while he worked. The project got done. But more importantly, Jeff learned something about himself that he carried into every project after. He was not lazy. He was afraid. And fear, unlike laziness, is something he knew how to work with. If you have spent years believing that your procrastination means something is fundamentally wrong with you, I want you to gently, kindly let that go. What the research tells us is this: procrastination is one of the most human things there is. It is your brain trying to protect you from discomfort. It has real costs, and we talked about those costs today. But it does not mean you are broken. It means you are a person, and persons can learn, persons can practice, persons can change. So here are your 4 key takeaways from today. 1. Procrastination is driven by emotion, not laziness. It is an avoidance of feelings, not just tasks. 2. Self-compassion and self-forgiveness are not weakness. They are the evidence-based tools that break the cycle. 3. Small environment and behavior changes make starting dramatically easier. Work with your brain, not against it. 4. You have more control over this than you think. Every small step builds the belief your brain needs to take the next one. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. The fact that you showed up, stayed with me, and engaged with something this important already says a great deal about you. If this video was helpful, please share it with someone who might need it, and come find us at the You Got This channel. There is so much more where this came from. You've got this.